Welcome everyone to the Sales Enablement Festival. The next speaker we have here is Lipika Subias, the Head of Sales Enablement for LinkedIn Sales Solutions APAC LinkedIn Group. And she will bring us the presentation called Future of Sales Enablement in a Post-Pandemic World, Consultancy, Hyper-Personalization in Cultural Learning. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation.
Hello and welcome back to the Sales Enablement Festival. I hope you're enjoying the event so far because we've got even more great content heading your way. Remember to have your questions at the ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners for helping us bring this event to life. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the content from the festival, be sure to check out the SEC membership plans. You can find more information about this over on the Sales Enablement Collective website. Sit back and enjoy the next talk.
Hello and welcome everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. Before we start, I want to take a moment to appreciate and celebrate all of the work that we've done as a community. We've done it. We helped our sales teams to make this big shift to virtual selling. We have flipped our onboarding programs, our product trainings, our coaching summits, our methodology workshops. We've learned how to facilitate online. We've learned new collaboration tools. We have done this all while homeschooling our kids and working out of our bedrooms and our living rooms. With the vaccines here, we see a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're like me, you're wondering, what's next? And so I thought a timely topic to focus on today would be looking at the future of sales enablement in a post-pandemic world. I thought it'd be worth to take a step back and look at what the future of work holds for us, which is really this ecosystem that we all operate in. The Microsoft 2021 Work Trend Index report has some great insights for us on the future of work. This is what we know for sure. 73% of employees want flexible remote work options to stay. We also know that 67% want more in-person work, more opportunities to collaborate. And this is after surveying 30,000 employees in 31 countries. And so we're saying we want the best of both worlds. We have been wondering, we can work completely remotely? Is that the way it's going to be moving forward? We've felt it, and it's not enough. The future of work is not going to be all virtual by what it looks like, because what we're seeing is while we collaborate more with our direct team, we collaborate much less with other teams. And a lack of collaboration, of course, is unacceptable in this world where innovation is so important. And then we feel this, that digital exhaustion is real. There's some staggering stats in this report. We've had 2.5 times more meetings this year than last year. Our meetings are longer. There've been over 40 billion more emails sent. In fact, I think all of those are in my inbox. And so we know that this is not the way to go, which all validates this idea of the hybrid worker. So in that context, what does that mean for us? I want to share with you this idea today that the future of sales enablement holds this idea of go tiny, go really big, or go away. And I credit Ben Padamin, our former global sales enablement leader, for this idea. Let me elaborate. Go tiny. This bucket represents micro-learning. And this is to address the hybrid worker, our new audience. We're going to have to create world-class content that people can access from a cafe, from home, from their desk at work, anytime they want, and working probably in completely different time zones, as now we know that talent is everywhere. The other end of the spectrum is to go big, to focus our time and efforts on very few really transformative and immersive learning experiences. This is where it is worth the time, the money, the resources, the jet lag to fly a group of people to Singapore, to Bali, to Hawaii for that major important learning experience. And what we're saying is everything in the middle will just go away. I want to try and illustrate this idea with an analogy. And I'm borrowing from the world of investment services. So once upon a time, if you were an average person and you wanted to buy stock, you would need to go through a stockbroker. It's somebody you would meet a couple times a year, would ask you a few questions, you'd pay a trading fee, you'd get some value, but not a whole lot. Then the internet happened. We now had the ability to trade just from our own personal computers. And that self-serve model has stayed, it has evolved, and it has been refined. Today, there are robo-advisors that make this super easy for us to do. Some of you here may not even have known and remember a time when we had stockbrokers. On the other end, there's the financial advisor. This is when the stakes are super high. Maybe we've come into money, maybe we've won a lottery, maybe we've come into our inheritance, and it is worth our time and resources to really invest in an expert that's going to help us, where we go really, really big, all chips in. How this relates to sales enablement is the broker represents that middle learning that we think is just going to go away because it's not high value, even though the cost isn't very high. We truly believe that the self-serve model, which represents micro-learning, is here to stay. It will evolve and it will be refined just as it has in the financial services. And then we think at the top end of town, that financial advisor model, that all-in, immersive, in-person, transformative experience that happens 1 or 2 times a year, that's here to stay as well. Let's take those one by one. The first bucket that we believe that our future holds is micro-learning. This is to suit that hybrid worker where we have all of the content that our sales professional needs at their fingertips whenever they want. It's the Netflix version of learning, where if I want to watch a documentary and I'm in the mood for that, I can. If I have just 10 minutes to catch up on something else, I can watch that. And this is the kind of consumer experience that we believe learning is going to hold for us as well. And that old TV that we once had that had just a couple of channels in learning, that would be those big workshops that everybody had to attend for a certain amount of time, even if it wasn't that relevant, that's going to go away. I want to give you some examples from LinkedIn and how micro-learning really fits into this idea of cultural learning. So at LinkedIn, we have 9 competencies that are best practices for all sales professionals at our company. And what we have is a development tool where I, as a sales professional, I can go in, I can take that assessment. It's going to tell me exactly which competencies to focus on. It's going to serve me up personalized learning options that I can then choose and schedule as it suits me. That's one example. Another example is we have a one-stop shop for all of our resources, a SharePoint site, a library of all of the content that you could possibly need to do your job well. And everything is accessible on our mobile phones because we know people are on the move. So these are some examples, and it's very much the direction that we are going in, to give people that ease and convenience that they're looking for. That middle, that stockbroker that's going to go away, this is an example of that, and it's a day in my life. So for some context, we have a new onboarding program, and it has 3 phases. One phase is microlearning, 8 self-paced modules, then it has a certification, and the 3rd phase is getting everybody to be job ready. So in order to support our new cohort who are currently doing the microlearning, I had this idea to set up a few learning circles to really accompany that self-paced journey that they were on. I also wanted them to have a chance to get to know each other and feel a sense of community, because we know that new joiners and Gen Z are feeling particularly disconnected. And so this is a typical agenda that many of us would have. And at the end of this first circle, I asked them, I said, it's new, so tell me one thing I should keep, tell me one thing I should lose. They said, we loved the icebreaker, we loved connecting, the pop quiz and Kahoot was fun. It was so interesting to hear from and ask questions from the relationship manager. But you know that middle part where you just went over theory? We covered that in our micro-learning. Like, can we just cut that out of the agenda? And this is one example of so many where we take up time. It's not really high value. We do it because we can. And with time being a more precious resource than it has ever been, this is the kind of thing I believe we're going to have to step up and really cut out. And I think there's an opportunity as well to reset expectation with our stakeholders. It's quite often that we're asked to put together a training, there's a need that comes up. And so I've started to ask myself, is this something that I can just create a video that people can access at their own convenience? Or does it require that time where we go really, really deep? Is this something that we set aside for the future when we can meet in person and we can collaborate? And so I challenge you to look at your own calendar and see where you have those examples of the middle and what we can cut out. I wanted to share with you an example of going big at LinkedIn. Now, we know from our report that people want opportunities to collaborate and they want opportunities to be in person. And I think that there are going to be some criteria that really say that that is the right thing, the best thing to do. And the Microsoft report has some clues in there for us. And when we're talking about digital exhaustion, one of the things that the report suggests is when we meet in person, to check whether synchronous collaboration is actually needed. That is where we need to collaborate in real time together with each other. The other criteria they point to is topics that are dynamic, that are creative, that are emotional. This warrants that all-out, big, immersive learning experience. And then from my perspective, I would say it would need to support a strategic initiative. And we would very much need to answer that question on behalf of our audience of why me and why now? And an example from LinkedIn is we flew everybody in pre-pandemic for the launch of our global sales methodology. This is a methodology that changes the way that we engage with our customers. It changes the way we collaborate. It underpins our growth strategy. And it was important enough for us to make the investment to have that big transformative experience and invite everybody in. Over 2 days, we were a group of people from insights, from marketing, from customer success, from sales. We broke out in groups. We were whiteboarding. We were using sticky notes. we were flip charting, we were debating, we were learning from each other, we were asking questions, we were challenging each other. This is an example of those occasions that warrant this time for us to really get together in person. That's all I have for you today. As we look at the future of sales enablement, I believe that it can be going tiny, going really, really big, and cutting out the middle. And I hope you're inspired to think about that as you plan your journey ahead. I know this has been a hard and a challenging time for all of us during the pandemic. And at the same time, we have such a real opportunity to learn from everything and really create the kind of work where all of us can thrive. And so I want to leave with you a quote that I really, really like. And it says, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." It's by C.S. Lewis. I really believe it. And with that, let's open up for questions.
Thank you, Lipika, for your presentation. I just need to turn the spotlight to our audience here. Is there anyone have any questions for Lipika here? Please feel free to post your questions directly in the chat room so Lipika can see it and then address them accordingly. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with all of you. And yes, I'd love to hear your questions.
I can see Franziska asked already. Any pointers on where micro and the medium-sized learning starts?
Franziska, that is such a great question. And I wish that all of us had time to really get deep into that. I know there's so much of collective wisdom over here. For me, one criteria of deciding whether this needs to be micro learning is this something that can happen without me? Is this something that the learner can do on their own? And so that's kind of the yardstick that I've been using, when I've tried to cut out that middle piece. So really good question. I am working on the answer, and connect with me on LinkedIn, share with me your ideas as well. There's another question from Jason. And Jason says, do you think sales training is more difficult in the world of Zoom? And if so, are there any tips to improve the efficiency? Jason, absolutely. I think it is much more difficult. And here's the reason why. All of us know this. Perhaps I'm guilty of this as well sometimes. And that is paying attention and not multitasking. I think it's really, really difficult to hold people's attention on Zoom or on Teams. And so it's all about keeping the learner engaged. And so I think that's what makes it more difficult. What I've been doing is I have really worked super hard on being as engaging as possible. So I usually don't go more than a couple of minutes without having some kind of circuit breaker. And when I say circuit breaker, I mean I could ask the learners to type in something in the chat, or I could have a Kahoot, or I would show a video, like really try to break things up to keep the learners as engaged as possible. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm sure there are lots of tips from all of you in the room as well. Mark has a question. Do I pay special attention to enable learning on mobile devices? Yes, 100%. We know all of the stats on how much time we spend on our mobile phones. The sales enablement platform that we use at LinkedIn is mobile friendly. And while I wasn't part of the team that sourced that vendor, I can imagine that it was one of the key factors that we were looking at. I absolutely think it's something we need to pay attention to. Like, one of the things I referenced in the report was what has happened now after the pandemic is it has opened up the world of work. And so there are people from other parts of the world that now have the opportunity to apply for jobs. And so it really means that people could be even working in different time zones. Not everyone's going to have their laptop with them all of their time. And so yes and yes. Good question. And Jason agrees. Cool. What other
Yes.
questions do you have?
Yes, for our attendees, please feel free to post your questions yet again. Yeah, we still got another 5 to 10 minutes for the live Q&A session. If we don't get any, Lipika, do you have any sort of final comments to wrap this up?
I think my final comment would be to wrap up the key message of my presentation, which is for us to think about how we want to spend our time post-pandemic when things are back to normal, which they will be, and to think about, what can we move from the middle either to tiny, so to a micro-learning format, or what are the things that are so important that really warrant us going all in and creating those transformative learning experiences. So I think those would be like two areas that I would love for people to think about, and also to think about, what we don't want to do. Like where we spend our time is just as important a question as where we're not going to spend our time. And so all of those things in the middle that are low value, that take up time, like how can we cut all of that out so that we're truly creating the kind of impact we want to and helping the sales organization thrive.
Got it. Thank you. We have some more questions here.
We do. Hi, Pooja. Thanks for your question. You love micro-learning. I do too. So that makes two of us. Your question is, when the subject and competency is a big one that requires a few micro-learning tactics, how do you keep them engaged through the roadmap and get it to the end? Okay, so this is how we do it at LinkedIn. We have a series of micro-learning. So you mentioned a big topic. So for us, a big topic would be our sales methodology. It's a huge topic and it's not a one and done. And so what we've done there in terms of micro-learning is, in addition to all the micro-learning that we created to educate the field on the methodology, now in phase 2, we have a whole series of micro-learnings that are focused on reinforcement. And so that's how we accompany people through the journey. And then what we also learned through that journey is that there were specific assets that our field were really finding valuable, some even created by the field. And so we created like short micro-learnings around how do you use this asset? Like, this is a great asset. This is how you use it. So that would be some examples. A question from Gina. How do I mitigate the conflict between sales and customer success teams? Oh, okay. So this is what we did, and I think it worked extremely well. I mentioned the sales methodology. I referred to it in my presentation as well. What we did to bring that collaboration between functions is we included everybody with an equal vote in that, in that immersive training. And so what we find is you get people together, you get them collaborating together, having fun together, learning together, and you get input from different teams, that there's a lot more collaboration. It was actually super. It was something we did different here in APAC. Francisca, thank you for your question. So the question is one more.
Give it a shout to. I'm just giving it a shout to Shelvit here. I think you missed this one. It's a little bit above, and he said, or she said, how to track the readiness of micro-learning, whether it is producing the result and helping the reps like it should, and reps are utilizing it in an effective way too. Would you like to give a comment on this one?
Shivam, $1 million question. If you have an answer, let me know. This is something we are working very, very hard on in sales enablement, which is tracking and measurement. I believe it's one of the big trends. In fact, it's one of the points I considered actually doing my presentation on. So how do we track the readiness of microlearning and whether it's having the business impact that we want? The way that we did it is we collaborated with our sales operation team. So they have their own dashboards. And so the way that we did it is, to collaborate and see. For example, in our organization, we looked at the reps using the sales methodology on their opportunities. Did they have better sales metrics? So did they have better win rates? Did they have bigger deal sizes? Did they have shorter sales cycles when they used the methodology versus when they didn't? And we could track that through the CRM system because we knew when they had uploaded the methodology and when they didn't. So our workaround in this situation was a collaboration with sales operations. And I think, we're going to continue to have to think about how we deliver ROI. So it's a really, really good question. And I think the whole enablement community, this is one of the things that's top of mind for us. Great question. And sorry I missed it.
No worries at all.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yes, of course. Of course. Go ahead.
Okay. Francisca, your question is around how we assess the different competency levels of the sales team. And do I have any tips on how to set this up? Okay. Looks like the e-learning platform you have isn't working for you exactly like you would. Okay, so we have a development tool that helps us with all of this. So I mentioned we have 9 competencies, and each of these competencies have, 5 different levels. And so what we do using this tool is, first of all, to do a self-assessment, then to get the manager to do a downward assessment. So you get a 180 assessment. And so that's how you would know as a sales professional where you stand in terms of your competency level. So that's how we do it. Leveraging technology has been a huge, huge help. And do connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to set up some time for me to share with you, what platform we use. Very happy to do that. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. It's been so much fun. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you'd like to say hello, you'll find me. Just look up Lipika Subbai at LinkedIn, and looking forward to connecting.
Thanks for your time and your presentation and everything. We highly appreciate it today.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.